Welcome to The Explainer. So, let's talk about something. What happens when you're under attack and your critical systems are scattered across AWS, Azure, and Google Cloud? Today, we're breaking down the modern playbook for handling a security crisis in a multi-cloud world.
Look, your business is all in on the cloud. That makes perfect sense. But here's the crucial question. Is your security plan actually built for that reality? Because the old rulebook for how to handle a security breach, it's not just outdated, it's dangerously obsolete.
All right, here's our game plan. We're going to dive into why cloud response is a whole new firefight, walk through the essential four-phase playbook, then get into the really tricky part, juggling multiple clouds. We'll also cover 5 mistakes you absolutely have to avoid, and wrap up with the most critical part of all, preparation.
So first things first, we need to understand this new kind of firefight. Responding to a security incident in the cloud isn't just a small change from the old way of doing things, it's a complete paradigm shift.
Just look at the difference here. On-premise, in the old days, you could literally run down to the data center and unplug a server to stop an attack. In the cloud, that server is ephemeral. It's temporary. It might not even exist in a few hours. We've gone from physically touching hardware to controlling everything with code. Containment isn't about pulling a network cable anymore. It's about surgically revoking access using APIs and identity controls.
So yeah, this demands a totally new mindset. You have to stop thinking about physical boxes and network firewalls as your main defense. The game is now all about identity, access, and APIs. And in this world, speed and automation win. Being fast is way more valuable than spending weeks trying to get a perfect forensic image of a machine.
This slide really nails it. Everything in the cloud is temporary and driven by code. The evidence an attacker leaves behind isn't on a physical hard drive. It's buried in mountains of logs and API call records. And if identity is the new perimeter, then protecting those credentials becomes your #1 job.
Okay, so how do we take this new mindset and turn it into action? Well, it all builds into a clear 4-phase playbook for when things inevitably go wrong.
Now, these 4 phases, detect, contain, eradicate, and recover, this is the classic framework for incident response. That part hasn't changed. But how you execute each one of these in a cloud environment, well, that changes absolutely everything.
Detection is all about finding the needle in a haystack. You're looking for weird stuff. Did a user account that normally works 9 to 5 suddenly start making bizarre API calls at 3 a.m.? The big challenge here is that you're getting flooded with signals from different clouds, all using different tools. That's why having one central place to see everything and connect the dots is an absolute must.
All right, you've spotted a threat. Now you have to contain it, and you have to be fast. This means you're revoking API keys, disabling accounts, locking down network rules. But, and this is a big but, there's a really delicate balance here. If you move too fast or too broadly, you could accidentally take down a critical part of your business. The goal is to act like a surgeon with a scalpel, not a lumberjack with a chainsaw.
This brings us to the absolute golden rule of cloud recovery. It's so simple, but it's incredibly powerful. You rebuild, you don't repair. This is how you make sure the attacker is gone for good.
I mean, think about it. Why on earth would you waste days trying to disinfect a compromised virtual machine when you can just, poof, delete it? In the cloud, you eradicate the threat by rebuilding your entire application from a clean, trusted template. Then you recover by safely bringing those new, clean services online, all while watching like a hawk to make sure the bad guy doesn't try to sneak back in.
Okay, let's turn up the difficulty. What happens when the attack isn't just in one cloud, but it's spanning across AWS, Azure, and GCP at the same time? Well, now you're juggling, and that requires a whole new level of coordination.
And this is why it gets so complicated. Each cloud provider thinks about security a little differently. AWS is really focused on IAM and account-level controls. Azure is built around identity and its directory services. GCP uses a project-based model for isolation. So what that means for you is that a containment action in one cloud, like locking down a role, is going to look completely different in another. You can't just copy and paste your playbook.
This is exactly why you need a single source of truth. You need one person, the incident commander, who has the final say. You need one communication channel, a virtual war room, so that everyone is on the same page. Because without that, you'll have the AWS team taking an action that accidentally locks out the Azure team, and you've just made a terrible situation 1,000 times worse.
So knowing the playbook is one thing, but knowing what not to do when the pressure is on, well, that's just as important. Let's look at the most common mistakes that teams make in the heat of a crisis.
Mistake number 1, and we've already touched on this, is trying to apply that old world thinking. You just can't bring an on-prem playbook to a cloud fight. The tools are different, the tactics are different, the entire battlefield is different.
Oh, this one is a killer. The house is on fire, the attacker is actively doing damage, and you're worried about collecting perfect evidence? No way. Your number one priority is to stop the bleeding. Contain the threat first, investigate how they got in later.
We just talked about this, but it's so important. Without that central commander and a unified plan, teams are just going to step on each other's toes. One team shuts down a network path that another team needs for their investigation. It turns into organized chaos when it needs to be a coordinated symphony.
And finally, we've got two huge mistakes that are really two sides of the same coin. Number 4, if you're only looking for network attacks, you're missing the main event. Most cloud breaches involve compromised credentials. You have to be hunting for weird identity behavior. And number 5 is simply a failure to learn. If you don't do a proper postmortem and fix the root cause, you're just inviting the attacker to come right back in.
And all of this leads us to what is probably the single most important idea in this entire explainer. Your success or failure during a security incident isn't decided in the moment. It's almost entirely determined by the work you do before it ever happens.
Preparation is absolutely everything. This means you have documented playbooks for each cloud, you run drills to practice them, you make sure you have emergency, break glass credentials ready to go, you set up your logging correctly ahead of time. A crisis is not the time to be figuring out who to call or where the logs are.
Seriously, if you take away just one thing from all of this, let it be this quote. The fire drill is what saves you in a real fire. Your incident response plan is only as good as the time and practice you put into it before you actually need it.
So I'll leave you with this final thought. It's great to have a plan written down in a document somewhere. But the real question is, have you actually tested it? Do you know, with confidence, that it's going to work when the pressure is on? Because in a crisis, hope is not a strategy. Preparation is.